Hi there, Doc from Barcast Audio here today to talk with you about mental states in criminal law on the Multistate Bar Exam, on the bar exam. We're going to run through some of the basic principles here, the core issues you need to remember when preparing for the multiple choice questions on the MBE. Let's jump right into it. To begin, you will see about 3 to 4 general principles questions about these mental states on the criminal law and procedure section of your multi-state bar exam. So obviously not a major subject here, but one that is still important. If you can nail those 4, you'll be well on your way to scoring well on the MBE. So before we get really into these mental states, there is a key rule I need you to just remember off the bat in regards to criminal law, and that is that generally the prosecution has to prove every element of a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. What does this mean in practice, though? So on the multiple choice, if an answer choice of a criminal question asks you to switch the burden of proof at any point of an element of a crime to the defendant, it's going to be wrong. Because, as I said before, it is up to the prosecution to prove each element of these crimes beyond a reasonable doubt. Do keep in mind that if you see an answer where the burden of proof is switched to the defendant to prove an affirmative defense, that is perfectly fine. It's just an element of the crime that causes these issues. And that's going to that rule itself is going to allow you to easily score a point or 2 on the MBE, easily see one of those questions, sort of know what you're talking about there. Now, anyone who's taken criminal law knows that there are generally 4 elements of a crime. It is the actus reus, it is the mens rea, the mental state, it is causation, and it is concurrence. In absence of these 4 elements altogether, you can't get a conviction. The actus reus is the act itself, the mens rea is the mental state, the concurrence is both things kind of occurring at the same time, and causation is what it sounds like. It's causation. You're causing the actual issue. So these are kind of like the basic core elements of criminal law. They are the fundamentals upon which the rest of the entire course is based on. As long as you have those 4 elements, actus reus, mens rea, causation, and concurrence, then a crime could have happened. And also it is the impetus is on the prosecution to prove every element of a crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, beyond those core elements, we move on to the mental states. And for now, we're just going to be talking about the common law mental states. We're not going to dig into some of the NPC stuff because it's not really relevant here. It'll be more relevant when we talk about homicide, other crimes, because for now, I just want to dig into these core basic principles. So let's talk about the common law mental states. The 4 common law mental states are 1, strict liability, 2, malice, 3, specific intent, and 4, general intent. Now, I am a New York sports fan. The Knicks are right down the road. I watch St. John's games at MSG all the time, but the New York Knicks have been terrible for most of my life. So when doing the audio lectures for Barcast Audio, I gave out a mnemonic that will maybe help you remember if you're a sports fan that the New York Knicks play at Madison Square Garden, the arena where they've stunk for the last 20 years. So I want you to remember the mnemonic SAVE MSG. That's S for strict liability, M for malice, S again for specific intent, and G for general intent. Those are the 4 mental states. SAVE MSG because it is criminal what has gone on in that arena for most of the last 20 years. Criminal, SAVE MSG. Keep it all on your head. Let's quickly run through the rules for each of these, though. First off, let's talk about specific intent. Specific intent crimes require that the defendant have had a conscious object or purpose to achieve the result. In order to have specific intent, you have to have consciously tried to do something. And crimes that fall under specific intent include, and just a couple crimes that fall under specific intent, we have larceny and burglary, the theft crimes, assault, the inchoate offenses such as solicitation, and first-degree murder. All those you need to have specifically intended to create a certain result or specifically intended to commit the act itself in order to be convicted. Now, if the defendant did not specifically intend to commit the charged crime, they will not be guilty of a specific intent crime. The important thing to remember here is that even if there's some ridiculous reason for them not being able to form specific intent, like they were drunk, they were high, some other cause, that's going to be enough to get them off for a specific intent crime because that is the barrier is so high for specific intent. So let's talk about an example here. Jet and Spike are business partners and best friends who live in state X. Spike usually eats a turkey sandwich for lunch when the two eat together every day. One day, Jet seeks to commit a practical joke by switching out Spike's usual turkey sandwich with a peanut butter and tuna fish sandwich. It turns out, unbeknownst to Jet, Spike is deathly allergic to peanut butter. Upon biting into the sandwich, Spike immediately drops dead. Jet is arrested and charged with intentional homicide, a specific intent crime in State X. Is he likely to be found guilty? No, the answer is no, because we are talking about a jurisdiction where homicide, first-degree homicide, is a specific intent crime, and we have right here within the fact pattern that Spike did not know He did not specifically intend to commit this crime. As such, he cannot be guilty of a specific intent crime. He cannot be guilty of killing Spike. By contrast, malice crimes require a recklessness or intentional disregard of an obvious or known risk that a result will occur. These crimes include stuff like arson and second-degree murder. So if you're lighting a fire, you're doing so with reckless disregard, and you know that something bad can happen as a result of that fire if you're lighting a fire on purpose. So that is a malice crime. Now, general intent crimes, they require proof that a defendant intended to do an act, even if they did not intend the result itself. That's a key distinction with specific intent now, because if they generally intended to commit the act, they can be guilty of general intent. It doesn't matter if they intended to cause the result or commit the crime itself. So stuff like false imprisonment, kidnapping, battery, and rape, those are general intent crimes. Now, for the purposes of the MBE, strict liability is not tested as much as some of the others here, but you really only need to know two strict liability crimes. They are statutory rape and selling liquor to minors. Strict liability is basically what it sounds like. You are strictly liable regardless of your mental state. So it's not really a mental state, but it kind of is. No matter what happened, no matter what the circumstances are, the extenuating circumstances, you're being found guilty if you do one of these things. Same with a crime like bigamy. Bigamy in many states, and I think majority of jurisdictions, is also a strict liability crime. So when you're faced with one of these criminal law questions on the MBE, I want you to first assess the mental state for the crime and determine whether the defendant's mental state allows for them to be convicted of that crime. As you do more of these questions, you'll start to easily identify what the crime being alleged is, and you'll easily be able to say, okay, that's a specific intent crime, that's a general intent crime, and that will get you off to an incredibly good start. You'll be able to breeze through some of these criminal law questions as you're doing practice. It'll become an area of strength as you get through them. If you can quickly identify the defendant's mental state, you can narrow down what the possible outcomes are. So once you can do that, you are well on your way to scoring well on the MBE, and that concludes our lecture on criminal law, general principles, and the mental states. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more of these videos. Check us out at barcastaudio.com for audio outlines, essay attack sheets, everything you need for the bar exam. Until later, I will talk to you guys soon now. Bye now.